Hello, everyone. It is me, Chrissy T, and let's consider this another Chrissy Tina Talks. Part of me was going to put this under Return to Writing, but I feel like this just needs to be a general video. So I want to talk about, and I know I've made a ton of videos about this before, but we're going to keep talking about it because it keeps becoming an issue in every field, and that is generative AI and the lovely unintentional witch hunt that comes with it. So, yeah, no, let's talk about AI in writing, especially trying to identify AI in writing. I've noticed a lot lately on various platforms, whether it be Blue Sky, Threads, TikTok, a bunch of things popping up and seeing it more and more about ways to identify AI, and especially in writing, since you are seeing more things like AI prompts and responses from things like ChatGPT left in published books and things like that. Or writing that feels very uncanny and finding out, oh yeah, no, this author used AI in their book and they didn't disclose it. But because of things like that, you're seeing this sort of witch hunt that I've mentioned in the art side of things happening more and more on the writing side of things. And I think it's only fair and especially myself as an indie author and a self-publishing author, because a lot of indie authors are really getting sort of put under a microscope because of this. So I feel like as someone working on their own books, especially one almost done, or at least the first draft almost done, and almost ready to be sent out to people to potentially read, I feel it's only fair that I kind of share my own thoughts on this, because I feel like this witch hunt is only going to get worse the more AI evolves, and especially the more generative AI evolves. So I guess it's only fair to start off talking about what people recognize as or are counting as signs of AI. And one of those things is the use of the Oxford comma, or just commas in general, because apparently you can't write with commas now. How else are we going to pause a thought in a sentence, or like blah blah blah, but then the rest of the thought, then comma, bring it back, or just like break things up a bit more, like listing things in a sentence often includes commas. And I mean, there are some people that prefer commas over periods, which is very, very hard to read, but there are people that do prefer it. But apparently the use and sometimes overuse of a comma is seen as potential signs of AI writing. A little odd choice, but it is typically to break a sentence or pause a thought to interject something related to it to continue on. Or again, in like listing situations. In a similar vein, you also see people seeing M dashes as signs of AI, because AI tends to use that a lot in what it comes up with. But again, M dashes are a normal thing, which is leading me into my main thought about this, and is that it's something I say even with art and generative AI images. Generative AI steals things from human work and tries to replicate it. So it is stealing the actual use of a comma or an M dash and using it. People have used M dashes for decades, centuries, if you want to even say that. Read a lot of classics. You are bound to see them. I have seen people pulling up videos of them being like, oh, it must be AI, and then literally closing the book, and it's a classic. something that was written long before generative AI was even. Generative AI, no matter what it's trying to replicate, whether it be visual art, written art, music, film, it is taking things from human work. It is stealing things that humans typically do a lot, whether it be in writing, in music, in drawing and painting, in video, in filming. It takes a lot of what people do normally. So it's going to try and overuse it the way humans do. And that creates a bit of an issue when it comes to the AI witch hunt, because em dashes, like commas, are typically used like breaks in a sentence a lot of times, because it's like interjecting a random thought into a sentence before going back into what the actual sentence was. They can also, I mean, my favorite use of the em dash, I like to use it in dialogue a lot. Not too often, but the em dash is a great way to cut someone off in a sentence, to literally have another character interrupt. Because you could use an ellipses, which is also something that apparently is a symbol of generative AI being used in writing. An ellipses is something else that is commonly used. But as I was going to say, my favorite way to use even an ellipses is in dialogue. Because when I want something that like trails off in the dialogue, I'll add an ellipses. Like, if a character is like thrown off by something and they're just like trailing off and lost in thought, I'll add an ellipses to be like, oh, there is a a pause coming with this realization. Meanwhile, an em dash to me signifies they're getting cut off mid word. They are getting cut off mid sentence, and it's immediately going into something else. Meanwhile, if an ellipses cuts off a word, that's them trailing off. That is a long pause. But again, this comes back to machine picking up on something that is very commonly used fairly often in things and trying to replicate it, but doing it poorly and fairly often. So then people notice that and pick up on that, but then they in turn start seeing every time that it's used in general as a sign of AI, which I think is an issue. But on top of that, going into people recognizing that, it we kind of run into the same issue I had with the generative AI images and people using AI art detectors to try and prove that something is or isn't AI generated. Because there are plenty of times where you can put a completely human made piece of work into one of those detectors and it'll be like, nope, nope, that was made by a robot. I've done that with my own work, just out of sheer curiosity to see what it was saying. It's like, oh, this was definitely made by a robot, even though I made it from start to finish, from thumbnail sketching to the final product. But you're starting to see that pop up with writing too. There are AI text detectors, which are bound to have these same flaws, if not worse flaws, than the art detector. Like, let's try to throw some of my own work into one. Hang on. Okay, using the webcam, sort of vlog style, just to take some dialogue from one of my own books, or one of my own projects, or just anything I'm working on or was working on. See, be a good one. Let's take something from a fantasy project I was working on. Let's just copy and paste a portion. Copy. Let's close that. Okay. We are going to hang on. Just wanna. Okay. Let's paste, and scan. This is going to be horrible. What are the results? Oh, human! Really? We are highly confident this text is entirely human. That's good. That is good. So let's try another one. Let's see if there's any continuity between these. Okay. Detect AI. Okay, 0% AI. Good. Let's try 0 GPT. Paste. I'm waiting for one of these to actually. Is my fantasy writing actually just like AI proof? Is that what this is? Like, I think I just found out that my fantasy writing is AI proof. My fantasy writing is AI proof. Okay, maybe I should try a different story. Hang on. Okay. I have copied a bit from one of my thrillers. Maybe this will be better. So let's do this. Go back. Let's go back to 0 GPT. Paste. Just gotta make sure this is in frame. Yes, yes, okay. Let's do this. How do I scan it again? Okay, scan. A thriller should be more generic. Okay. Okay, that still says human. We're good. How dost I get it to do this again? Go paste, detect, text. There you go. 32% AI generated. I had a feeling thrillers would probably be a bit more picky because typically it's a bit more of a generic thing. I hate to say it, but a lot of thrillers can sound the same. 32.36% AI GPT. When it wasn't, it was all me. If anything, the only thing I was rewriting was my own work because I was reworking a thriller I was already working on, but the original draft wasn't working out. The sky a deep purple with a distant pink haze from sunset as Jamie waited on the bench by the fountain. Why is this ChatGPT? Why is it picking that up as GPT? Smiling, she typed back, "Yeah, I'm still here. I'm sitting on the bench by the fountain." She looked up from her phone, scanning the horizon. But man, this really ruins the texting element of the story when it puts everything into a sans serif font. But what? Oh, Grammarly has a free AI detector? Okay, Grammarly, people tend to trust you. People tend to trust you. Thank you. Will you trust Grammarly? 0% of the text appears to be AI generated. But as we found out, not all generators will give the same answers because, as you saw, there is inconsistency between the, let me say, generators. You know what I mean? Detectors. There is a consistency between detectors and results. Okay. As we saw, there can be inconsistency between the detectors, but also apparently, I guess, the more fantastical you get with your writing, and the more out there you get in genres, apparently you might be able to. I don't want to say skirt past and skirt through. these detectors, because I don't want to give anyone who uses ChatGPT to write their books or anything like that to write their books any hope that they could avoid being detected. But it does make me feel better about my writing to be like, okay, yes, these detectors know I'm human. They know I wrote the story. So there's hope with that, but I feel like with more just like generic, especially, I don't want to say generic genres, but genres like thrillers and stuff like that that are based more in reality. I feel like that's going to be where you see more of these detectors finding things they consider discrepancies, even if you didn't use any form of AI. If anything, this should just be proof that, like with the art, like the AI art, quote unquote art, witch hunt, I feel like the same can be said about the AI writing witch hunt. You can't completely trust these detectors, even if they may seem like they are a bit more reliable. I feel like, if anything, it depends on the genre. Because I feel like when it's the more like fantastical stuff, like your like high fantasy, maybe even sci-fi, compared to say a thriller, or maybe even a horror story, or like some sort of crime, or maybe even a mystery novel. Just, I feel like the more, I guess, reality based it is, compared to the more like fantastical, whimsical fantasy elements of it, I feel like the more it leans towards reality, the more you're going to see the discrepancies between these detectors. And again, this doesn't mean write fantasy to skirt being detected. I'm not saying that. Write your own work. If anything, have someone co-author a story with you. Have someone help you write. Do not use generative AI to write for you. And I'm going to use this as a disclaimer. I am talking specifically about generative AI, not assistive AI, not spell check. Generative AI, as in you are prompting it to give you the story. Don't have it write the story for you and then you edit what it wrote. No. Write the story. No one starts off perfect. Trust me. So don't take any of what I have said or shown as a reason to write like a high fantasy story to avoid, well, let me see, quote unquote write using GBT or whatever to skirt the detectors. Do not do that. I'm not saying to do that. Everyone starts somewhere. Everyone starts off as a bad writer. You have to write bad stories to get to the point where you're a good writer. You have to write bad stories to get to the good stories. And sometimes those bad stories you can come back to later and fix them and make them into the story you wanted them to be. Even going back to my video talking about saving my own books, realizing when to scrap a project versus when a story is salvageable. Writing in my original draft versus the overhaul I'm doing now, two completely different stories and styles. And you can see, even in just the snippets I showed in that video, how far I've come in my writing. Don't give in to AI because it's there. Because I said this in my art video, and I will say it in this one. I feel like people start relying on generative AI and it becomes a crutch. It becomes a crutch and then it stunts creative growth because people think that they can't get to the point they want to be as a writer. The only way to get to that point is to keep writing, to keep practicing, to keep working. The only person who can get you to that point is you. But yeah, no, don't use those detectors. Because clearly there is an issue. But yeah, no. Remember that generative AI, these language learning models, take things that people use on the daily. It does what it does because they are things that we do. It sees what we do and tries to copy it to the best or worst of its ability. So just because someone uses commas or an em dash or an ellipses or anything like that, that does not inherently mean it's AI. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys can gain something from this. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment below on your thoughts or anything else you would like me to talk about, whether it be in writing, art, any of that, because this is my creative hub of a channel. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos. Turn on the notification bell because I don't have a posting schedule. And I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.